on this episode of the Work Like a Mother podcast, we have something super special. So number one, he's actually the owner of the company that is doing this whole production, this whole getup that we got going on today. So it's looking sharp. We love what it's doing so far. But we have Josh with us. So a little bit about Josh. I mean, multi-talented of all facets. I would just say like the whole thing. But quick background is you have a Bachelor of Fine Arts. You're the creative director for Inspired Church for over 3 years, which we know and love here locally, but it's also a global church. So a lot of work on the marketing side on that. Previously, you worked with huge brands like Kendall Jackson, Red Bull, you name it. And I think just speaking with you before we even hired you, your experience goes beyond years. It's more like just the variety of companies you worked with at different scales really created what you are today, which is Salt and Light Collab, which is pretty cool. So the company alone does a whole bunch of things. So marketing, social media, events, like the choreographed drone situations, you got that on lock. Recording studio for artists, you've got podcast production, YouTube production, and more. You're also a papa to 2 little kids, which is very awesome. Our kids go to the same preschool. And now you're the new owner of a bar called Gatsby in Honolulu, which we were stoked about. That's opening very, very soon. So to say you have a full plate is an understatement.
Big time.
But
we'll just cut that. That was perfect. And we'll just repeat that. That was awesome.
Exactly.
Good job.
But thanks for being here because
Absolutely.
we have a lot to talk about, first of all. But how do you juggle it all? Like, tell me about that right now. Like, every time I talk to you, I'm like, okay, he's off to the next thing. Like, what is life like right now?
Yeah, I feel like we're always like crossing paths. I see you drop your kid off and I drop off my kid. I think well, first of all, it reverts back to just how my wife and I, how we operate. Mm-hmm. You know, we try our best to put God in the center of everything. Mm-hmm. And we find that things just slow down when we take a second and we just talk it out. Because she's really busy, I'm really busy. But the priority right now is to really be present. And so how to be present, but how do we still lead? How do we still manage? How do we lead from the front? That's always been something. But I think when we prioritize what matters most and how we go about our day, God just seems to work it out. I don't know how he does it, but he does. And so we just lay it out there. And I think that's really how we go about our day,
And to set the tone, your wife works full-time. She works
full
12-hour shifts, right?
Nurse practitioner, so 5 days a week.
Yeah, but she's working the grind.
9,
and she's commuting.
Killing it,
So you guys are doing this at a very high level and still parenting, still owning businesses. It's possible, but it's with a lot of communication,
Yeah, communication. I think naturally, I'm just not the best communicator. And she's a very good communicator, so she's very detailed. I can speak, but she's more of a planner, and a highlighter, and a writer, and a journaler, and I'm most of let me just speak it out loud and pray about it and think about it. And so I think early on when God started to build our family, and we just had one kid, we really got down to some sort of a rhythm. And then you had the second child, and then forget it. That rhythm is just out the door.
It's survival mode.
Yeah, it really is. And it's like, okay, you got this, and I got this. And I heard 3 is just crazy, and then 4, you're just good. Like, you can just handle the world. Nothing happens. You can go from 4 to 8. That's what I hear. But yeah, I think it really is working together and just finding how we both operate, and then what the kids need, and then going backwards from there.
Absolutely, yeah. So what you do now is a lot of coaching, consulting, really helping brands get off to the next level. What would you say is the biggest difference between marketing and advertising? Because I feel like we get caught up in that. Is there a difference? What is the difference?
Yeah. So I think all the things that we do is summed up under one major thing. Is we tell stories, and we stop at nothing to tell stories. We find that everyone has a story to tell, that God is using you, and because he's using you, that story that you've been through and continue to go through matters. And we also see that through the customer side, that if you want people to become a fan, to go from just a casual customer to a fanatic, they buy into what you're selling by your story. People love Apple. You think of Steve Jobs. You understand, oh my gosh, this guy started something from nothing. And you can kind of go back with Tesla and all these big companies, their story matters. And so I think for us, it starts with story. And then the difference between the branding and then the marketing is branding truly is understanding your story and putting that story together in a way that customers can understand it. Marketing is telling that story. Okay. So sometimes when I see a company and I'm like, wow, man, you've got such a good product. You do so many amazing things, a good service, or you have a good product. And you tell that your story is just not being told. Let's just say you do a lot of marketing, aka putting your story out there. But then the story itself may not be the best. And sometimes it's vice versa.
Yeah.
It's like, in my opinion, you ever see those movies where like the preview is just so phenomenal? You're like, I gotta watch that movie.
Yeah.
And then you watch the movie and you're like, wow, I just saw the whole movie in the preview. Like there was nothing more to it. So we like to take that step back and just really define what is that story, what's the beginning, middle, end, where's the crux, and then how does that story in turn motivate people to want to buy into your company.
That's so good. And I think just for a real estate example, I think when everyone gets their real estate license, all of a sudden you're switched into like, all I can talk about is real estate. So how do you coach and advise people to be themselves, to be authentic, but to also pitch themselves and help their clients? Like, how do they connect those dots?
Yeah, so I look at it in a more spiritual way, but basically God has made up everyone with their own specific story. And there's no one person with the same identical story.
100%.
So if you just understand that what you've been through, what you're going through is your story, and you embrace that, you will uniquely be you. And then if you take that and you go, okay, I'm built for X, and this is my story, then naturally you're going to understand the type of customers that you're going to gravitate to, or they're going to gravitate to you naturally. Or if you're going to customers that are not natural to you, you know where you need to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it really is understanding where your story comes from and just being comfortable, which is actually the hardest thing, is to be real, comfortable, raw with yourself. That's normally not what people want to do in their business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everyone, all entrepreneurs aside, they get so sidetracked by what's working or what's popular, and so they just start to like copy everybody. And that's even like what the social media gurus say is just copy this audio, just copy this thing. And then before we know it, we're like creating this whole brand that's not even us. And we're wondering why we're not getting the output and everything. So instead of somebody thinking that they need to be this thing, I guess, what impact have you seen that's changed when people do get real and get vulnerable? Like, can you think of a story or business?
I look at it as there's a 1% of innovators. So like if you just go through the world and you think of people who are innovating things, creating new things, or bettering new things, there's 1% of them. And then the rest, the 99% is it's not that 1%, is the imitators. And so I found the difference between innovation and imitation is that the innovators are the ones that can look at something and say, hey, you know what, I've got to put myself into this, and I've got to better this program or the system. And you kind of hit on it, is, you know, the 99% is following that 1%. Well, I think for me, that how do you become that 1%? Well, if you're uniquely you and you're just doing your thing. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't look left and right and learn, because we all should be gleaning, we all should be learning, we should be reading, right? Shout out Pastor Mike, you know, readers are leaders, right? So we should be learning. But then at the end of the day, we got to understand that God's given us our own task to be innovators. And so I can tell an innovator right off the bat, like, I'm going to give you some props here. You are an innovator. What you do, how you do it, how you think. You know, I work with a lot of clients, and a lot of clients just want things to be done. And what does everyone do? Well, working with you, that's not been the case. It's been, this is how I want it. This is how I see it. And for me, that's what I love. It's because we should be encouraging and fostering that in more people. Is that, what is it that God's given you? Now let me get on board with what you're doing. And so if anyone is in real estate, if anyone is starting a business, if you're that working mom, go get it, girl. I would encourage you to just know that if everyone else is doing it, well, then you're just like the 99%. And I just think that if you took a step back and said, well, no, I'm the 1%. And I'm going to do it the way that I'm doing it, that God's called me to do it while learning, you're going to find that people are going to want to do what you're doing. And that's how everything changes.
Yeah, that's so true. And it applies to any field of business, any product, any marketing. It's just going back to authentically you. And there's a lot of new agents that I'll coach, and they'll say, well, Marina, I haven't done anything yet, so who am I, right? And there's a lot of insecurity and a lot of internal lies we have to overcome. But it's like, even if you haven't done anything in your definition, look at how far you've come, right? You graduated high school. You probably have some trauma in your life. You've overcome a lot of things. And that all becomes who you are as a business owner, despite the sales that you've done or despite the amount of real estate you sold or whatever. Absolutely. Yeah. So I took a big social media break from the winter break, which was so good. Like, I needed it. And also, like, I didn't realize how much it was like changing my mindset about life and just that comparison all the time. Because it's constant noise. There's always something new. There's always something coming out. There's always so-and-so. And so going into the new year, I'm like, okay, I still, like, social media is part of my life. I'm still going to continue to do it. But how can I shift into things that not only feel good, but can, like, screw the algorithm, just, like, are more me, you know? How do you feel like social media is going to go for business in general? Do you feel like the algorithms are shifting? Do you feel like content is shifting? Like, what's kind of on your mind for that?
Yeah, I think the last thing I saw, Q4 last year, there was a pretty big buzz around just customer engagement and sales through social media, specifically in Instagram. And you see this, right? You see this where it's like, wow, I love that post. I love what she's wearing. Where can I get it? Well, the technology and the way that VR is working, you're going to be able to get a distinct link from that post and go, oh, let's click on it. Let's buy it. So my thoughts is this year you're going to see a lot of integration between Shop and Instagram, Shop and Facebook, and a lot more. So even in just common posts, even in stories with links, where I believe this micro influencers is just probably going to push even more. I mean, it seems like it's growing, but I don't think we've even like really gotten there yet. I also know that a lot of companies, instead of paying massive dollars for one or two big influencers, they've gotten to the habit of going less money with more influencers. We call them close circle influencers. So if you were to think about it this way, here in Ho'opili, like you are a gatekeeper. A lot of people might have purchased their home through you. So giving you a few $100 to be representing a certain company, we would hit this community. And so I think the new strategy will be companies will give money to smaller micro influencers that they know bigger families or bigger communities will gravitate to, and they're going to spread the money out a little more. So maybe those are the two major things that I've seen. Another one is I've seen life engagement go up. So a big one that I think is going to be huge for everyone is LinkedIn. We were
just talking about this.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, LinkedIn is like the sleeping giant. And it's very intrusive. And you give them that information. So just heads up, just know that if you're in LinkedIn, people can look you up and they can see your credentials, and they can, you're publicly saying, this is what I've done in my life, right? So it's like a walking, living, breathing resume. And so with that, I think there's going to be a lot of customer and business engagement there. And I think there's going to be a massive B2B growth opportunity there. So if you have a business, car dealer, real estate, things like that, LinkedIn is definitely something you should be looking at, because the way that they're starting to do everyday stories, kind of like Instagram and Facebook, I anticipate that to grow. So that's something they can
I just listened to, it's Amy Porterfield had an interview. I'm like blanking on the chick's name, but she also runs a podcast network. She said 135 million users on LinkedIn and only 5% create content. That's it. And so if you post, not only is LinkedIn going to boost it more, but specifically if you're in line with what LinkedIn mission is and their audiences, then they're going to boost it even more. But you can't link out to anything. They want to keep you in the app, of course. So you've got to have the content organic there. But I think it's like, to me, it's boring. It's a little sleepy. And so I think if you could just put it on autopilot, right? Like just delegate it out. It doesn't have to be you personally. There's total domination like efforts there, and a way to really niche into your audience. You can search in working moms, you can search in remote jobs, like really get into your audience. So that's exciting. I think we're going to try it. Maybe I need to bring
I read a crazy fact. So out of all the social platforms, LinkedIn is the most viewed during work hours.
Which is awesome.
I mean, I don't know how, that's crazy. It's like, is everybody looking for other jobs when they're in their current job?
Like, this looks professional, so I can do it on my computer.
Maybe.
But I have a couple girlfriends who every time I post something, they like comment within 5 seconds, and I'm like, you are definitely working.
You're really bored. Like you should probably maybe not be hitting me up. Like
but I think again, the network wise, we're not using it to its fullest potential. So there's the option to do like recommendations for your peers, just a way to like boost each other as a love tap, right? You could totally do that, but the people don't do it right now. So I'm excited. We'll see what LinkedIn brings. Okay, and then let's talk about podcasts for a second. So we kind of had the discussion before we started, but like podcasts are also very untapped. Is it too late for someone to start a podcast, and why not?
No, not at all. So I think it's just general, communication. So if you just go back, and this is just how I see it, right? So at first it was always written, and go back to theater and Globe Theater and these carts that would just travel from town to town, and that's how they would like do communicative fun things. And then we move into the radio, and the radio was such a big deal, right? Like, wow, you can actually hear someone's voice and across islands and waters and states. And then we started moving to the moving picture and video. And then let's go into the 90s. What's up, internet, and how that's kind of moved forward into now we're moving into social media, right? And so social media is just a way where people get most of their news now on social media. Conventional television rates, I don't care what anybody says, has been dipping.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Even the analytics in which they used to measure, right? They would use these Nielsen reports, and they still do. And the idea is like, oh, you have this household and these household, and there's 8 people in this house, so therefore this many. It's like, no, social media can tell you exactly. I can tell you right now, like that phone at this IP address was on this ad for X amount of time.
Yeah, crazy.
Right. So we know like how clear the communication has gotten and how connected we've gotten.
Yeah.
And what I've learned is podcast is a very non-intrusive way of getting people to know you.
Yeah, it's intimacy kind of.
It really is. It really is. Look, we're like in your like house, right? Like through the door.
Yeah.
And we just like plopped here on the table and we started talking, right? And it's one of those things where I think podcast allows you to introduce people to who you are, but then it's such a good method of communication because not everyone can watch all the time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of got the best of both worlds. It's like the best of streaming if you're doing this on YouTube like you are.
Yep.
And then it's like the best of radio because people can listen to it when they want. And so what we know is that autonomy is like the big thing. I was just reading a book. It was about habits. I forget. I'll send it to you. Yeah, it was like, no, I love Atomic Habits. No, it was a new one. And it was Headway. You ever see Headway the app?
Okay.
Headway the app just, it like condenses everything into 15 minutes. So you can like smash through books. And if you're a working mom, you don't have time, something you can look forward to. And one of the major points was that everyone now, they want autonomy. They want autonomy with their time, with their finances, to be able to do what they want to do when they want to do it. And so it used to be, they would call them the X workers. Now they're called the I workers.
Okay.
And the idea of these I workers is this autonomy to do what they want to do. And so podcasts really allows people to just listen when they want to listen. And we find that the number 1 and 2 most delegated time for podcasts is working out and car drives.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? So like you can probably, if you're listening to this, if you're on a car drive, honk your horn because you know what's up. The truth is that people want to listen to it when they want to listen to it. And so I think, is it too late for a podcast? Absolutely not. Is it too late? Was it too late 10 years ago to be on the internet? Absolutely not. Was it too late 30 years ago to be on television? Absolutely not. Was it too late to be on the radio 50 years ago?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. It's only growing.
That's true. And I think looking back too, it's like, who's in it for the long game? Same thing with YouTube. It's like, okay, I could have tried it for 6 months and threw in the towel and I'd have 200 followers, right? Yeah. Now, 2.5 years later and 250 videos later, we only have 1,000 subscribers, but it's real money. It's real business that goes through there. And so now it's evergreen and it's living when I'm sleeping. It's doing business all the time. Same thing with this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to produce for years and years and years, but I have a dedication for at least a year to get started, and then we'll see where it goes. But I'm really trying to go into it with no expectation and just really create authentic connections. But I think another thing with podcasts is you can go deep. Right? Yeah. Because so much of social media now is 60 seconds or less and 10 seconds and viral and da-da-da-da. And you don't really ever get to build that relationship with the person where this is a real conversation. We're going to go on for 30, 45 minutes. And then by the end, you're like, if I bump into you at coffee, I'm actually going to know who you are. Yeah. Totally different.
Yeah. And podcast lends itself to being a little more raw. Right? It's like, okay, we edit, we do things. But, we can't edit everything.
No.
And the best podcasts, like the ones that I listen to, I like the mess ups. Like I like when people have to take a second to like think about their answer. And so it kind of lends itself to this rawness. And, if you strip back social media, that's really what it is. It's just people, they're trying to get a real beat on people. Whether they're doing that or not, it's a whole nother question, but that's what it does. And then I'll give you another encouragement.
Yeah.
We talk about these numbers and like things have been inflated so much. Like, oh, I've only got 500 followers. I want to be this influencer. I need 20,000. But like, here's the thing. If you were to just like put yourself at Aloha Stadium or at the park and you were to invite 500 people just to be there, you would cry.
Yeah,
like
I would pee.
Like 1,000 people would fill most of that park. Any event that you would ever do and 1,000 people comes, that's a huge success, right? Yeah. So it's kind of like, I think some people, we lose, like, these are real people.
Absolutely.
These are real eyes. These are real souls. You're actually pouring into it. And let's just say you have a effective rate of 10%. Like of that 1,000 people, 100 people really, really love what you're doing, or even less. Let's just say like 1%, right? Like if you think about it, 10 people, like those are 10 lives. Like
that
how
would
many?
fill a dining table.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and so like I think we've gotten to this point where we look so much at the numbers, but we don't understand like these are real people, real eyes, real families. And if you measure it that way, extremely successful. You should be really proud. If you know, and we're in media, and I haven't really put much time on myself or our company or whatnot. We just want to help others. And if you're reaching 1,000 people, I think you should be really proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's such a good reframe, right? Big picture. Okay, and then recently you've hooied up with Aloha Acquisitions. I wanted to talk about that a little bit. So tell me how you got involved. What does this look like? What's kind of why get involved with it? Like, we're always on this entrepreneurial journey of, okay, I started a business. I was an owner-operator. I got freaking frazzled, right? Then I hired a couple assistants. But how do you get out of being owner-operator to then start to do more? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think when you change, there's a switch that flips from always having to run everything into like, okay, I trust the people that God's like got with me. Like I really do trust the people that are here. Shout out to Cody, shout out to Rayan, shout out to everyone. Like, you know, they're good people, and I just so I can trust them with that. Yeah. And then when it comes to investment, I have kind of two major criteria. One is heart posture. You know, you can have a lot of money. It doesn't mean it's success. It doesn't mean that you have happiness. It doesn't even mean that that's your calling. You know, so the first thing is I look at the heart, and then the second thing is I look at what I can learn and what they can teach me. Okay. And so Aloha Acquisitions, when I met Anthony, when I met Jeremy, first of all, if you know Jeremy, he's on social media. He's everywhere. He's just a ball of energy.
Go.
Yeah, and he's and like he was, to me, he was really transparent. And I was like, wow, this guy. It was at a point where like I don't think he would mind. I think he even said like he wasn't crushing it. Yeah. And he's like, man, I'm getting like killed this year. And I learned was a lot. I was like, dude, that's phenomenal that you can just kind of look at yourself in that way and almost laugh about it because like he crushed it the year before. Yep. You know, and he's been doing really good things since. And like to me, that's a humble posture to be able to say, hey, you know what, like I don't got it all figured out, because that's the truth. I don't either. Yeah, no one does. You know, like I'm hiring better, I'm hiring up, I'm hiring smarter because I don't know those things. Yeah. I know what I know, I don't know what they know. And so when I met Jeremy, that was something that was super apparent. Was I kind of felt like I could come alongside this guy because there are things that I can help him with for sure. But there are things that he's learning that maybe I don't need to lose some things to learn, you know, like that's the key of wisdom is being able to learn through others and some of their choices. And so that was Jeremy. And then with Anthony, to be the age that he's at, to understand what he's owning and operating and how he does it. Talk about a guy who really puts a system in place and steps off. And it's something that I think everyone that invests and runs businesses, we strive to do.
We're all control freaks.
Yeah, exactly. You know, because this is our baby, right? We go to bed, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about staff. I'm thinking about clients. I'm thinking about all these things. And if you care, which you should care, then the idea is I'm trying to provide solutions for people, and I can't turn it off. And when I met him, it was remarkable. Like he just said, like, listen, I come in. Yeah,
he's got a switch.
Yeah, I look at this system, I tweak it to what I know best, and then I let them do their thing. Cool. And I just admired that. It was something that was super attractive that I was like, I need to learn this. And so that's why I really got involved with them. And the way I got involved with Gatsby was we were working together on their podcast, and we just started to build a relationship. And there were things that I was bringing in, you know, that I think they were learning, and then it just became this thing of like, oh, this makes sense. Like we should be working together. And so the heart posture for me, from what I've learned, what I've seen, check, and then can they learn? Can I learn? Check.
Yeah,
and
love it.
That's why.
And that's really the collaborative effort. And your company is called Salt and Light Collab.
That's it. Yeah.
But I think going back to that, it's like, you gotta look for other talent too and realize you can't ever do it all, number one.
Oh, so good.
But right now I'm working with an investor who wants to bring me in on investment deals because I have a role and he has a role and then his partner has a role, right? And so it's like, I'm not trying to come and orchestrate the whole thing anymore. I can come in and just own my thing and not have to worry about all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But then that allows you to shine at what you're good at and really teach other people around you too who recognize they don't have the skills that you have.
Right.
And you can do more and impact more people that way, which is really cool. But one thing I know, like in my heart, I know as an entrepreneur, I'm not just supposed to do one thing.
Right.
I'm supposed to do more. God has a higher calling for me and a bigger impact to reach the community. And so it's like, I'm definitely watching. I'm loving seeing the journey. So keep sharing it. We're so excited to go party at the bar. It's going to be fun. But it's cool. It's super cool because not a lot of people are doing this. This is a higher level of entrepreneurship for sure.
Yeah. You know, our mission in Salt Light is, you know, we really want to help people. And then you would go, well, Josh, why are you part of purchasing a bar?
Yeah.
You know, and like, I really believe that my calling is to be that bridge between what I know as who Christ is in my life and then, you know, what people are doing. And there's no shade. Like I was in the wine industry. I worked for Red Bull. Like I love these people. And I just feel like we can do things right. And it like, so in my opinion, being a part of the Gatsby is really an extension to being able to do things right, to just bring healing and comfort and love and being able to, you know, if you've worked in restaurants, which my wife and I talk about this all the time. Like we feel that if everyone just spent 1 year in like the hospitality industry,
everyone needs to do it. Yeah, everyone
like
needs
a
to.
server, a busser, you know, working in a hotel, like, you know, I think the world would be a better place. And you always find like a family there. You know, I worked at Monkey Pot. I loved Monkey Pot.
Yeah.
I like some of my best friends are from Monkey Pot, right? And like we just had such a good bond. And so I realized like a family is a family, whether it's you know, a like crazy family or if it's a like thriving family. So I just felt like, oh, there's a family here and we can bring more light to it. We can have a good time and we can really bless people. And that was the opportunity that we got to do, you know?
Yeah. Well, and as you're talking about it, I'm just thinking you're literally bringing Jesus into the bar, which is how cool.
Yeah.
Because he would like his life was accused for like, why are you eating with the tax collectors, right? Why are you doing all this? Well, now there's an opportunity. The door's open and you'll just see what happens. Like, that's the coolest part.
Yeah. And maybe there's a part of me like, I'm not far from any of it, right? Like that's the truth. You know, the truth is that, I'm a different person. I operate different. I think different. I love God. I love my family. I love my wife. But, you know, like I was brought up in that as well. And like, not to say I'm better or they're worse or they're better or I'm worse. It's just to say like, I know what worked for me and I love where God has me. So why would I not want to help others get to that place?
Exactly.
Right. And then sometimes some people just need to find a solid, comfortable place where they know that they're going to be secure and taken care of so then they can make those next steps, right? Not everybody wakes up and says, like, I want to work at this restaurant for the rest of my life.
No.
Some, maybe. And maybe they'll go and be a general manager. But I don't know, 95% of them, they're just passing through.
Yep.
Right? And so that means that's the next Elon Musk. That's the next, you know, head of Bank of Hawaii, whatever it is. And so I think that's how we're going to, like, help Hawaii is by doing things like that.
Yeah, because you have the whole wait staff, everybody, even like all the people who provide the goods and the services.
Oh
like,
yeah, the whole thing.
Community's involved. Yeah, that's awesome. Maybe if I'm growing some flowers, I can provide the flowers on the tables.
Go.
There we go.
Oh, see, that was easy. That was easy. See, she snuck that in there.
Ready
That
to
was
go.
awesome.
No, awesome. Well, to wrap this up, I mean, definitely I want to go back to like the work-life balance with your spouse, with Sam. So she, again, heavy full-time work and still doing the juggle. How are ways that you guys prioritize date nights? How do you what's your circadian rhythm for your family like? How do you do that?
Yeah, give me a second, because man, that's a heavy question.
Yeah. I mean, do you have weekly rhythms that are like must do or a monthly rhythm? How do you center yourself again?
Yeah,
what
so
does that look like?
we have first off, church Sundays. It always starts with church. It starts with God. You know, as much as I like to say I do my devos every day, sometimes I mess them, but I try my best to really like stay in the Word, and I know she does as well. And then like throughout the day, we're always texting each other and whatnot.
Good.
Her current schedule, she was able to change it, so now she can be home. So family dinners, it's a must, right? It's something that we do. We also pray before we leave. It's like something that I'll
sweet.
never like take lightly, right? Like before we leave, we pray over a day with the kids. We'll pray over her job, over Judah at school, Paisley at my mom's, hi Paige, and me at work, and whatever that looks like, right? And so those are like some non-negotiables. Those are the things that we always do. I think the second thing is understanding like the seasons. I remember Pastor Dharius Daniels says something about control, how it's control is an illusion. So you think that you can control things, but you really can't.
Nope.
And so we're in a season where we can't measure tit for tat. We can't say, well, I'm doing this, so you do that. Or Josh, you did 20 things and Sammy did one thing, or Sam did 15 things and I did 4. Like we're really in a season where, okay, maybe I have to be the one to have a little more flexibility in this season because there's been seasons where she's been, you know, and so like going back to Dharius Daniels and understanding control. If we don't have control and we give up the control, we know that God's just going to kind of, I see it in like these bars that shift, you know, like Josh bar and Sam bar, and it kind of like more or less.
But it's still one bar.
Yeah, exactly. It's still one bar.
Yeah.
And then being able to communicate and say like, oh, my bar is like full. I'm like dying and you really need some time. And we, you know, admittedly, we can do better at this. You know, we always talk about it like, man, we are so busy. Another big thing for Sam and I and how we do things, we're learning to say no. Like we're really big connectors.
Yeah.
Like we love our friends.
Yep. Very
our
social.
Families here. Yeah. And like I just take it personal. Like if I'm gonna commit to a friendship or something, then that's like I'm serious about it. I really want because I'm out. If I'm out, I'm out. If I'm in, I'm in. And so, you know, it's been hard because even good things, even though they're great, doesn't necessarily mean that they're good in that season. So being able to say no to the good thing, where it's like a gathering or a friends thing, and like, we want to support them, we want to love them, but just in this season, if we do that, then we're going 14 days without any time for ourselves. Not to mention like the house is dirty. Like let's be real here. How we're gonna cook and prep and groceries and car and you know, and so I would say, just understanding that this is a somewhat tough time. There was this charts that I saw, of course, on Instagram. So who knows how real it was, you know? But it had like this bell curve, and it was talking about how much time you get with your kids.
Oh, I've seen it.
You saw it?
And after 18, it's just.
Oh my gosh,
it's
just like I was like, okay. Then I started counting back the time. Like, okay, I got 14 years with my son, right? I got 17 years. It's so crazy. I got 17 years. But then it's like, so 2 things I got from that. Hold my kids close, say yes to them as much as I can. The second thing is keep pouring into my marriage. Yeah. Because they are going to be gone. And it's just going to be her and I. And like we got big plans. God's got big plans for us as a marriage, as a couple. Yeah. And so those 2 things I'm trying my best to hold on to. Yeah.
Super good. And so glad that you recognize that, because that's the season we're in too, of just like, okay, Roman is 8, almost 9. We only have, you know, time's a ticking. It's like, oh my gosh, it's going to be in middle school before I know it. It just
so crazy.
It goes by so fast. But one of the things you said is learning to say no. Do you have like a good script? Because one thing that women suck at is saying no. Like we are yes women.
Everyone. Well, okay. So like, I kind of always revert to like comedy. I don't know why, but I think the truth is just coming out and saying it. Like, you know, we love you. We're not going to be able to make it. Hopefully we can make the next one, and just being extremely clear. Because there was a season where I was like, oh, we'll try to make it if we can. Like, don't be that guy.
I know.
Don't be that
I've been
guy.
there.
Yeah. Because then they're like, okay, they might make it. And then when you're on the receiving end of that too, like sometimes it feels almost inconsiderate. Like, oh man, do I say food? Do I not say food? Do I have a space?
There's expectation.
And so the church did an amazing last message. Pastor Dominic did it. Pastor Mike did it. And it talked about like the top 3 things that you learned from 2023. Top 3 things that you're going to take for 2024. But there was one thing that really hit me. It was like, who are you bringing into this next year? And like, it got me to really think and pray like, okay, in this season, like not last season, but this upcoming season, who are the people God's put right in my life that I have to really take an extra step in commitment with? And so I wrote those names down, and I've just kind of said, okay. And Sam knows them too. Like I told her, I said, here are the
These are
guys.
my people.
Yeah. And whether it's me pouring into them because I feel like they're in a pivotal part of their life, or them pouring into me. You know, I just had to like lay that out. And unfortunately, not saying that if you're out of that circle, you don't get credit, but it does help me prioritize a little And those people I do spend a lot of time with, so it kind of works out.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's really good. I think just what you said, that I love you, we're not going to be able to make it, but that first I love you, we don't even say that. We're just like, what the heck do I say? You know, like I want to be there, but I can't be there. Or like, I know I'm going to kick myself if I say yes. So good. I call them bumper lanes. Like we got to have these boundaries, these bumper lanes. Yeah. Otherwise we're just going to be like throwing balls at the wall, you know?
Yeah.
Do that.
Here's the thing. If you say I love you often and you really mean it, I think that people actually like receive it well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like when you do things out of the ordinary and they're like, man, you're saying you love me just because you can't make it to my party. So like that's something that I think it's like something so small. But I've definitely through some trials, tribulations, through things that we've been through as a family, things we've been through as friends, you know, it's like every moment I do get, I will tell anybody I love them if I really love them because it's important. Yeah.
And we don't say it enough. We don't hear it enough. So if we can be the one to bring it back into the conversation, it's like, I am loved by these people.
And guys, we have a hard time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we have a hard time saying I love you. We have a hard time saying I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm like the best at it. My wife could probably tell you that, but trying.
Yeah.
And maybe those two things, I don't know how that helps, but
maybe that's super someone. Good. I think some people are taking some mental nuggets for sure on that one.
Yeah.
Super good. Okay, well, we'll wrap it up. I think biggest thing, I mean, if we could end it with one big piece of advice for someone who is in a similar situation, but they're feeling very frazzled and overwhelmed, what advice do you have for that woman or maybe for the husband that she sends this to? Is there anything?
Yeah. I think there's no one real way to do everything. Just God does things in so many ways, you know, and if you're just confident in knowing that he's got you on a path, and if you don't believe in Christ, which I do, just know that I think that there's always something higher that's working and you're good. And I call that Jesus. But if you need encouragement, just know that it's supposed to feel frazzled. At the moment things go too well is when, and anybody in business would probably tell you that, if it's going too well, there's you probably got to stop and go, wait a minute. There's probably something I'm not seeing. Yeah. Maybe there's a reason why it feels the way it does. It used to be this mentality where I would work for someone and I'd be like, when I have my own thing, I'm going to be able to turn off work. I'm going to be able to do my own thing. But the truth is actually opposite. You live with it. Yeah. It is your baby. You sleep with it. It is something that's always occupying your mind. So just know, like, that's how it's supposed to feel. And then if you're a guy and you have a wife that's starting a business, I mean, this is just me and I hope I'm not overstepping, but like being their biggest supporter, being their biggest cheerleader, being, guy, girl, doesn't matter. It is hard. Business is not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. It is definitely something that you've got to commit fully to. And it makes life so much easier when you go, I've got a support system and they got my back. Yeah. And like sometimes that's all someone who's frazzled needs. And if you don't have that, pray through that because that's a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so good. Oh, that's so good. Okay, let's end this with our rapid fire. So what is your Starbucks order? Do you have one?
Gosh. Okay, if it's Christmas, it's got to be peppermint white mocha all the way.
Yeah? Okay, that's a good one.
The Christmas doesn't start for me until like you get that sip. Peppermint white mocha.
That's the key to the kickoff.
Yeah, it has to be almond milk or soy milk, but
Okay, that's a good one. What do you make for dinner if it's last minute and you're in a bind? Like, what do you get?
Lately, I've been doing, so you go Costco and you get like the big thin sliced steaks. Yep. And then we food savor, like I'll portion out like 5 portions. And then I'll go ahead and I'll do like a quick meatchin.
Yeah, just quick fry, rice.
Yeah, no, meatchin like with the egg and the...
fry it, yeah.
Yeah, shout out to the Koreans, yeah.
What's okay, up? Awesome. What's your fave go-to department of Target? Do you have one?
Oh, man. Target?
Yeah.
I'm a food person.
So I don't know. Or the grocery store?
I'm like a fat boy. I don't know. Like anything that's like food related. Okay. They've got like really cool healthy snacks. I find myself in there all the time. I guess, yeah. The chip section, always 100% always there. And then definitely, I don't know if I'm just feminine. I don't know, the Joanna Gaines section.
Hey, yeah.
I don't know. It's like inspiring. Like I always go there and I'm always marketing. So I'm always looking like, what are they doing? Yeah. So I learn a lot there. Yeah.
Yeah, same. I go in there not only to just like enjoy and be in the presence of all the beautiful things, but
Yeah.
then I take notes. I'm
Yeah.
like, what is the font that they're using?
Exactly, right? The colors,
yeah.
like, okay, sage, that makes sense. Yeah.
That's so funny. Okay, name a book or a podcast would you recommend to the show audience and why?
Well, if you're in a, I listen to a lot of political stuff, but definitely Pastor Mike's podcast for sure on leadership is really, really good. Inspire with Mike Kai, that's huge. Dharius Daniel's podcast is phenomenal as well.
Okay.
If you're into books, Atomic Habits is great. 5 Hour Work Week, great. Bible, Proverbs, 100%.
Read one every day.
Yeah, if you can get Proverbs and Psalms.
Yeah,
that's kind of the go-to.
That's
so.
great. TikTok or Instagram?
Oh, Instagram, all the way.
Why? Is there one?
TikTok's for young people. There's no real money there. I can go on and on and on. Businesses, yeah, all that stuff.
Okay. Where can people find you online right now?
Oh, saltlakecollab.com. You can see us everywhere. I got a few things in the works as well. So
yeah. So if you're a business or a brand and you're ready to like kick this off and get serious about marketing and I think just really expanding your voice and your platform and telling your story, Josh is the guy.
Thank you.
So this is a great episode. I'm so excited. And I really hope people would re-listen and take notes. I think there's a lot of personal and spiritual gems aside from just business and social media and all that stuff. So yeah, we'll be back next week with another one, but this was good.
Good job. Is that a wrap?